welcome. You're watching Fairfield Public Access Television. I'm Susan Kessel and Connie Boyer. Welcome.
Thank you.
And we're doing Opening Fairfield Doors. It's been a while, but we're opening a very special door today, and that is with Lucy Ismer, the new CVB, and Holly Moore, the president of the Fairfield Art Walk. First Fridays.
First Fridays Art Walk, and actually I'm not President Jacqueline Signorius. I'm their marketing person, so.
Okay.
Yeah. Little difference.
Yes.
Glad to be here.
Yeah.
Thank you. So Connie, it's been a while.
It's been a while, but we're back on track.
We are.
We are back on track.
And we have to be back on track because there's so much going on in our community. It's amazing.
It is amazing. Just amazing, exciting. I mean, we're on the map.
So where do we start? I think, Lucy, you've been in town for a while?
Yes, I had my first year's anniversary October 4th.
Uh-oh. we should have been doing this 6 months ago.
You wouldn't have been able to find her. She was too busy getting things done. So,
So you were hired a year ago as our Convention and Visitors Bureau
Executive Director.
Executive Director.
Mm-hmm. Yes, I was, and I'm thrilled. I was thrilled to come, and I've just knocking off my first year. I look back, and I'm just thrilled. I mean, I'm excited. Personally, I hit every goal I had this year for Fairfield, and
Why don't you tell us a couple of those goals? What do you think are the main ones that have been accomplished the last year that you're really excited about?
The things that I'm very, very excited about, I'm going to leave one for Holly to talk about, but the other ones is actually figuring out what Fairfield had to offer to our visitors. Out of all of the wonderful things there are to see and do, which ones would be the highlights, which ones are the wow. We have to wow our guests when they come into our community. Things that, looking at Fairfield as a visitor myself, was easier for me to probably set up a bureau than it would have been to have a local set up a bureau, because that person's used to all of these wonderful things, where for me everything was brand new and I could really rate it, you know, on a scale of 1 to 10. And I have to tell you that everything in Fairfield is above a 5, so it was just to figure out what was the key ones and work from there.
And I think a key thing there is a culture change for a town, because people go, we have a tourist attraction here? You know, and they are confused because they've lived here all their life. They've never thought of Fairfield as anything touristy.
Mm-hmm.
And so you're changing our culture and helping us find those things.
Well, thank you, and I hope so. In Fairfield, of course, the festivals and events that stand out in my mind, and they're all wonderful, but First Friday's Art Walk, from the time I came into the community until through today, it's definitely an anchor event for this community. And I knew when I went to my very first Friday's Art Walk that it was beyond the normal, and that all it was going to do, it was to get the word out to the rest of Iowa and the nation for visitors coming in from all over the place, what First Friday's Art Walk is and what it does for this community, how it all kind of fits together in a big puzzle. To me, it's marvelous. It's homespun, it's international, it's friendly, it feels good. It is all of those components that, as a new person into the community, I could feel all of those excitements when I came in, and I get very excited when I talk about it. I can see that, I mean, I can feel my eyes, they always get big when I start talking. But truly, it is what it is, and it's hard to explain to others out there in the tourism arena, which I've been trying to do all year, letting them know that why is it different, Lucy? It's different because it's in Fairfield. It's different because of the people. It's a celebration of life. It's a celebration of art. It's a celebration of who they are and the community at large. It's all those components put together in one huge celebration of life, and the Art Walk is just what we heard today is the core around which everything else falls into place. And it is just awesome. It was my very first time in Fairfield is when I attended First Friday's Art Walk, and I literally took my position because of how I felt when I came here.
Well, we're glad.
Yeah.
I think the Art Walk, a lot of things have been building over the years. Artists gathering, a lot of people moving to town, the creative people, the food, the everything growing together, and the timing was just right. And I think also for the Civic Center and for the trails and for the so many
Cultural
things
district.
in the cultural district. So many things have just been percolating, and they're all happening at once, and it's very exciting.
It is very exciting. And there was Holly's been working with me since day one, and I've really leaned on her expertise in the community with all that she's involved with. I mean, she definitely does more than just Art Walk. And you guys, we've all been working on different projects together. One of the other things that I'm very, very excited about for both Art Walk and the CVB, an accomplishment, is developing the Fairfield Visitors Guide. Now, I don't know if everyone has seen this out there, but what we try to do in team tourism is put the feeling or the essence of Fairfield inside a hardbound brochure. And I think we hit the mark. Have had nothing but wonderful, wonderful comments on this brochure. You've left out nothing. People I get emails from, the visitors, they love it. The visitor centers that we are now placing these out throughout the state, all the kiosks where the consumer comes into the state, they stop there, they pick up their brochure, they're going to this first. It is rather striking. No one else is purple. If you wonder how we pick the color purple, or I picked the color purple, it's just because no one else had that color out on the rack. And I think it's a beautiful color anyway. It actually is the color of our booth when I go to trade shows. I wear a purple suit. It's from the brochure all the way through. So, and I also give out purple buses that have white headlights on them that I play with in the booth and give away. So this was another one of the things that I've accomplished that I'm thrilled about, and to have the input of team tourism and I don't know if you've taken a look at it, but it gives me a good feeling when I look at it.
Oh, yeah.
How long will this brochure be put out? Before we have to do another one?
Another one? Well, that's a good question, because this last week I was asked that in a separate email. And the reality of it is we're done for this year. This is the first year it's actually out on the shelf. So it's the first year it's in the kiosks. It's being sent to visitor requests. We need to evaluate it in a year after we have one full year for all comments to come in and see what we've missed, what we need to change. But right now we're thrilled with it. I'm looking forward to see what kind of requests and visitor inquiries we get.
Where in the state do you have this placed? Like Des Moines, or is it mostly on the east side of the state here?
Well, we actually have we actually have an Iowa tourism brochure distribution program. And you have to pay to put the brochures in this distribution program. And they're visitor centers that are at main entrances into our state. So not only are they at the main entrances, but they're also in other communities that have smaller but key highway, well-traveled highways.
So the Amanas, they have a big grouping of brochures. This would be a place that people could pick one up.
Yes, or what is that shopping center up on 80?
Williamsburg.
Yes,
Yeah.
that one.
So
Tanger outlets.
places where people already are being
Yeah.
tourists, they're going to pick up more tourist information.
Correct.
And so being a part of this tourism group is a good thing.
Oh, absolutely.
It's a must.
It's a must. And, of course, it takes a while to put together a publication like that, and the plan of the community. It all came together. And we just started distributing this two weeks ago.
Fairfield has never been in this, right?
No.
We've had some art walk brochures maybe put around.
Those came after the visitor's guide, actually. So,
Okay.
Yeah. They're part of the visitor's guide. We put them inside.
And we have the art walk inside of our
Yeah.
brochure as well.
Okay.
More purple.
Yeah.
Perfect.
I took
Perfect.
Lucy's lead. We have purple here.
Well,
this'll get
they're
to-
vibrant.
Yeah.
I mean,
Well, you've got a good thing going.
Yeah, and the fun part about it is when I was at the State Tourism Conference last month, I got to network with all of the managers and or directors of these visitor centers. And of course, they all were talking about my beautiful new purple brochure, and they go, so where is Fairfield? And they're the ones that are sending guests around the state, and they didn't know very much about it. And I had time to sit and actually network with them and tell them about First Friday's Art Walk, our restaurants, MUM, our regional American Gothic House, and Mount Pleasant, and Villages of Van Buren, and we're not too far from Amana colonies, and we're not too far from Pella, and getting it in their head how they could route people in and around and include Fairfield in that routing. And so that was early in the conference. It was a 4-day conference. And the last day of the conference is when we won the 2005 Iowa Tourism Event of the Year Award, which I want you to know that everybody flooded me after that presentation for First Fridays. And they said, we are coming to Fairfield. And I expect these people to come within the next 3 months before their peak starts coming back in again when the visitor is on the road in spring. But they're going to come down and actually check us out. And I told them about the First Friday's December being themed gingerbread house extravaganza, and they were thrilled. And so we're just starting. We're just starting.
Oh boy, it's so exciting to have all this going on and happening. And I'm so glad you're here getting this going, because it's something that we've needed to do for a long time. And you were from Ottumwa, right?
That's correct.
Previously?
For 3 years.
For 3 years. So we lured you away.
Well, I actually moved from the West Coast in Redondo Beach, California, to Ottumwa, Iowa, off the internet. They needed a startup specialist to start their CVB, and that's what I did. And so for 3 years I worked there. And at the end of my tenure of putting, I had the footprint all laid out, I was called by Fairfield. And I am very thrilled that I was, because reality is Ottumwa is a definite hub and spoke hotel room. But as far as attractions, as far as an attraction destination, Ottumwa is not. That is not a bad thing to say. It just is what it is. And I think my greatest accomplishment in tourism so far is making something out of nothing. In Ottumwa, what they had were hotel rooms and location, and around them were all these hub and spokes of wonderful tourism things to see and do that took some travel time. But our tour buses and visitor don't mind traveling to go see something as long as they can come back, have a nice dinner, and go to bed and have a place to stay. So that was just a wonderful exercise for me to get to know Iowa, southeast Iowa especially, and become an expert in the region on things to see and do. And Fairfield was a given. And so unlike Ottumwa, Fairfield really is a destination, and I know it's hard for other people to understand that, but reality is that the food alone is a reason for someone to come to Fairfield. The food alone, it's absolutely, to me, up there with Toronto, Canada. Everybody says you need to go to Toronto for good food. When I went to Toronto in representation of Ottumwa and Fairfield, now I could look back and everything I ate there I could have here in spades. It's just the way it is again. So you've got the foods, you've got the wonderful festivals, you have the wonderful people with the feeling, which Fairfield feels good. You know that I coined the phrase when I first came because that's how I felt. And then you have the Maharishi University of Management in Vedic City, which is totally unique, that no one else has. And you've got a package to sell.
And all the history.
The trails.
Things are going to just even come together more, I think.
But you also brought up a point it's not just Fairfield, but we have a region here that has lots of assets, like Villages of Van Buren, Amana colonies, Pella, Mount Pleasant. All of those things are a big package deal.
Yes.
Let alone, Fairfield by itself, which we want to promote, but also we're part of a greater piece that we can really participate in. And some of these have already, they've been doing this for 20, 30, 40 years. And so now it's our turn to build and be part of that. But
oh, yeah.
It's great to be part of that region. It helps what we're doing.
Yes.
To be part of that region.
Yes. And let me tell you that the legislators in Iowa like the fact that we work regionally, because none of us stand alone. Together we have a huge amount to sell, and why people should visit. And yes, Fairfield is number one. I mean, I want them to come and spend the night here. I want them to have the feel of Fairfield. I want them to leave going, I've got to go back to that community. But we also want to share that with our region so that when they think of Fairfield, they think of all the things there are to do. And those venues become our venues. Just like American Gothic House, which is 15 miles from here. It was 15 miles from Ottumwa. People started to relate the two. When I'm out selling Fairfield, I sell American Gothic House. Holly's very aware of that because she's been involved with Step on Tour and being a tour escort here in our community, and that's a big part of who we are. I mean, it's just wonderful. It's wonderful to claim everything. When I was the CVB director in Vancouver, Washington, if anyone knows where that is, it's right next to Portland, Oregon. If you blink your eyes and do not take the first exit off the bridge, you will bypass Vancouver, Washington, and end up in Vancouver, Canada in about 3.5 hours. So it was not an easy sell. You literally had to get on and off the freeway in a big loop, and otherwise you missed the community. Well, there we had Mount St. Helens. Was it in Vancouver, Washington? No. It was about 2 hours up the highway, 1 hour up, 1 hour into the mountain. But it was in Vancouver, and we sold it as such. And it's that package that people can feel very comfortable about where they can stay and where they can go to come back and stay and eat and do it again.
And you've had a couple bus tours.
Yes.
And can you tell us about those a little bit? And maybe Holly can give her experience.
I would
of
like
being
Holly too, because for me, I know how exciting it was, but for Holly, being her first ones, I mean, now she's old hat at it, believe me, but I'd like her to talk about the tours.
Well, first I should define my role. I'm a member of Team Tourism in Fairfield, which Lucy started, which I think is a great thing, and I invite as many people that want to become involved with Team Tourism. She basically put out a call to people anyone interested in promoting tourism or having something they felt might be worth promoting. And we meet once a month. It's a great place for a very broad cross-section of many people in our community to get together and discuss things.
Are you still looking for members?
Yes.
Always
open.
Always.
The doors are. It's usually the third Tuesday of every month at lunch somewhere. You could call the chamber and they can give you the location. It moves around to different places. But it's a wonderful opportunity to network with other people and get some synchronicity going and what have you. And I think the reason that most of the Live on the Square concerts that are planned for the next summer are happening the Saturday after the Friday night's art walk have to do with
Yay.
Team Tourism getting together when we realize, wait a minute,
Yes.
if we give a reason for people to stay overnight in our town, our hotels will be full all the time. It'll be wonderful. And there's that hotel motel tax, and that goes to enrich Fairfield even further. So we have different committees on Team Tourism, and one of them is Step on Tour Guides. And Tori Adam, who's a remarkable, wonderful young person, she's one of those rare 20-something
Nice
people.
to have her here.
You really want those kind of people in a community. Just so much energy and vitality and great ideas and enthusiasm and very amazing work ethic with getting things done. She's our chairperson, and I'm one of the guides. And when Lucy asked me to do a couple of the tours, I'm thrilled to do it. It's just absolutely fun. I moved here 30 years ago, and I love Fairfield. I love Fairfield with a passion that's reserved for, I don't know what, for other people. I don't need a Mount Rushmore. I don't need a Grand Canyon. I just love Fairfield so much, every little corner of it. And the thing about it is it's easy to talk about something that you love. It's very easy. And it was wonderful for me. I knew a lot about things that were happening currently, but being a step-on tour guide also encouraged me and inspired me to go and look at Fairfield history. And that was where the big appreciation, if I could love Fairfield anymore, it began to deepen in a way I couldn't believe it. It was just, we have such a wonderful tradition here of brilliant creative people, innovators, just that wonderful Midwest ethic of honesty, hard work, caring for your neighbors and what have you. And it is so evident. And I just loved reading about Fairfield history. Susan Fulton Welty's book, Fairfield, has become my Bible.
It is. How many times have we used that?
It's really true. I go back to that so much. Almost before every tour, I'll go through and reread it again. I just enjoy it that much. So I can really answer questions and what have you. But it's wonderful. You get these people on the bus, they don't know what's going on. And the first tour I did, it was a mystery tour. So they weren't even sure getting on the bus where they were coming. And it was so exciting to take them around. Their tour guide had asked for certain things, which we provided, and one was a tour of Harper Brush, you know, our centennial amazing company here in town, and they loved that. Most of these people are older. They're of retirement age. And as I said to Lucy, you know, Harper Brush is such a great place for that, because that's a generation who can appreciate a good scrub brush. So they enjoyed that, and we took them to up on campus, which is always intriguing. I know we've had a very interesting town gown history with MUM, and but I got to tell you, in terms of tourism, it works for us so well. It's unbelievable. People are very intrigued with what's going on campus and Vedic City. They're just interested to find out what this is about. I don't think we've had anyone who hasn't. That's usually the highlight of what they ask for, because it's so absolutely unique and what have you. And so we've taken them on tours there on campus and up in Vedic City, and they're very interested in the Stapachevade architecture and what have you. And one of the tours, we did a FAM tour. FAM stands for familiarization. This was like, well, first, the fact that we even got this tour is amazing. We have to give Lucy credit for that. It's basically a busload of tour directors, each of whom can book up to a half a dozen or more tours a year. So you start doing the multiplication of 55 people on a tour bus times a half a dozen tours, and the potential for people coming into Fairfield and spending their money in our restaurants and our stores and our hotels becomes really quite remarkable. So we really did a dog and pony show for them, as the expression goes. It was quite remarkable. We loved everyone involved, which was very many members of the community. Had a great time putting it together. We got extremely high ratings. They were really jazzed.
Now, I heard you had a mini art walk for that
We
one?
did. We put together a mini art walk. We basically, because the time was so short, we really only had them here in Fairfield for 3 hours. We had to be very wise about what we chose. An art walk is, regardless whether you consider yourself a big fan of art, it's more of just a festival atmosphere, building on our strengths of our very diverse artistic community here. And people love it. And so we decided we'd give them a mini art walk, which was basically one venue, and Bill Teeple, who is the proprietor and art visionary in Fairfield here of the Icon Gallery, helped hang a show. Actually, he did most of it. Very remarkable show, great cross-section of local artists, just pulling from people's collections and what have you. And we had street entertainers. So the first thing they did was, as soon as they got off the bus, they went in for a taste of Fairfield, which one of our restaurants, Revelations, was gracious enough to allow many other restaurants from town set up. And they walked in and had food from all these different restaurants in town. And they got price lists and what have you for bringing their own tour bus in. It sort of knocked them out a little, because, as we said, our food selections here are just...
Well, and just the commitment to all those people working together. I mean, they're all competing against each other every day.
But this is what I see, the cooperation.
And yet they came together
Yes.
as a team
It's
to
so,
do this.
it's so remarkable. You walked in and it just took your breath away.
It
These
did.
beautiful tables all set up and all these different foods. People were just blown away that came in. They loved that. And Mayor Malloy spoke to them afterwards, and he just kind of almost giggled as he began to speak to them, and he just said, "We eat like this every day in Fairfield."
And some of us do.
I know, it's really true.
It's like,
It was just amazing. And then, so after they had their meal, we let them out into the street. It was a nice, warm September day. And we had street performers, like we often do at Art Walk, up and down the street. We had a magician, we had a singer-songwriter, we had some girls from high school age girls doing their speech competition performance, which was a bunch of 1940s songs, you know, the sort of, which this generation can also appreciate a lot of those songs. I'm trying to remember what else we had there. And then they went into the gallery, and we had classical music playing in there, live classical music, you know, Daniel Sperry Paul Jones had played, and they got to see this amazing show, which was so good that we left it up for the next art walk, because it was really neat. And then they finished up with a tour of campus in Vedic City and going up to the Rupapura Hotel, and they were very, you know, they loved it. And she's getting, before they even left, and then we went to Eldon.
Yes.
We went to Eldon, they got their picture taken in front of the Gothic house. And before they even left, they were booking tours with Lucy. And this was the sort of the revelation that's so interesting that people in Fairfield aren't aware of. We are an attraction. There are so many things here people find absolutely interesting and fascinating. And it took Lucy's fresh eyes for many of us to see this. My husband and I helped her work on the visitor's guide. You know, when we started like listing all the restaurants, listing all the parks, you know, I've lived here 30 years and I was just blown away. I was going, wait a minute, this is unbelievable. You know, we have this many restaurants for a town of under 10,000. And people really respond to that, and they want to come here, and they want to spend time here, and they want to spend their money here. And tourism, our first meeting of Team Tourism, Lucy showed a fabulous film on the value of tourism. And it's what's known as a clean industry. There's really there's hardly any downside at all to tourism. It's all win. You know, they come in, they spend their money, they leave. You know, you don't need a big infrastructure, what have you, like that. You know, it's not like it's a great industry, and I love working with Lucy because I just think it's a great part of our economic vitality to continue to enhance this and develop all our tourism possibilities, because it's a great way to keep Fairfield a wonderful place to live and a great place to visit.
Yes, and everyone on their toes.
Yeah.
You never know. I mean, there's travel writers coming in now, and what a travel writer is a person who can write in the Des Moines Register, a huge article, or a magazine that goes out to the rest of the
AAA
Midwest,
magazine,
AAA magazine. You don't know who these people are. Well, they have been coming. Fortunately, we've known about some before. We know about some after they come, but they're coming. And they could be the person that walks over to Cafe Paradiso, has a cup of coffee, and just asks one question and see how they're being treated as a guest, because they're a visitor, and they want to write visitor articles. So you never know who you're hosting now, but the more that we are on the map, so to speak, as far as visitor destination, the more we're going to have this. So everybody that comes to Team Tourism is aware of it, but the people that don't come, there's only so much communication you can get out there. So a show like this is good, because the reality of it is they're coming.
Yeah, it's really true. I mean, we had someone come down. There's been a number of things that have come up, but I wrote an op-ed piece for the Fairfield Ledger called "Companies Coming," and it's really true. What everyone needs to be aware of is, I would say, I don't know, I couldn't put a percentage on it, but you know, the likelihood of you running into someone who's visiting here from out of town is exponentially increasing these days. And I like to inspire everyone to all consider themselves hosts and hostesses here in Fairfield, and to,
No matter where you're working, what position
it's really
you're working
true.
in.
That's correct.
It's
Yes.
absolutely really true, and to act accordingly and make people feel welcome, and know that if you're having a bad day, maybe you should work at the back of the office instead of the front of the office, because we're gonna all want to put our best foot forward here, because this is definitely an industry worth developing here in Fairfield on so many levels. Because not only does it bring in income, but it also inspires us in terms of building and growing Fairfield and making wonderful things happen here.
A visitor can turn into a homeowner.
Well, I'll have to
Exactly.
tell my favorite story, actually. I do have to tell my favorite story. Last September Art Walk, I saw a couple walking around, and I went up, and I don't know them, and I'm a naturally gregarious person, in case you can't tell, and I went up and introduced myself. It was Steve and Marcia Tiffany, and they had come down from Minneapolis. And I said, how did you find out about us in Minneapolis? And they said, well, actually, we're thinking about moving out of the city. We want to move to a smaller town. So we had gotten on the internet, and we had put into the Google search bar several key words that were important to us. One was intentional community, and for them that meant people who really sort of care. It's a phrase, it's hard to describe it. The other one was arts, because they're both artists. And then the third one, because he's a Buckminster Fuller fan, and Buckminster Fuller's very big on geodesic domes, they wrote in the word geodesic dome. Well, up comes Fairfield, Iowa. So they read a little on the chamber site. They hear about, they read about Art Walk, and they think, well, let's just go down and check it out, and we'll come on an Art Walk. So they come down that September. Now, they were very impressed that they couldn't find a hotel room. I did have to confess to them that had not as much to do with Art Walk as it did with Threshers over in Mount Pleasant. We don't quite fill up the hotels yet, but I predict that we will very shortly. You know, so they were ending up staying down in Kiosks. That was the closest they could find a hotel. But they came, they spent the whole weekend, they absolutely loved it. They moved here in December. They're living in the Dome House, which is at the end of North Main Street. People
Oh,
may
I
see
know where
very
that
close
is.
to campus.
Yes.
They've been living there, and you may have noticed a new dome going up
Yes.
on East Stone Street. They're building their own dome home. He's a real big fan of Buckminster Fuller. And they're building their own home and getting ready to move in. And they are as happy as clams living here. She's going to actually do her own webpage about why they moved here. I had encouraged her to do that. But they just found in Fairfield all the quality. And these are people who are in their, Steve and Marcia, if you're listening, forgive me. I'd say your late 30s, early 40s, and I know I'm taking. But, these are people who are still very much vital contributors to our community. But we hear of more visitors that are coming with an eye to make changes. Let's face it, the world, the way the world's going right now, small town life becomes much more appealing than some of the bigger cities. And yet we maintain that amazing vitality of a big city with all the events that we have. I mean, Live on the Square, Art Walk, the car shows. There's a little something for every Kids Day. It's just amazing all the different things that we have here in Fairfield. And the Power Wagon Rally, I'm just mentally thinking of all these different...
And I think it's important, too, to realize that our children, the brain drain, that are moving away. And I just had my son, who's 28, and just moved back to Fairfield, just got married. He bought a house. He's married. They're going to start a family, and I want him to stick around. And he's got several close friends that recently moved back too, taking over family businesses. And it's so important to have all of this going on, something to offer
Keep it
them,
attractive.
because otherwise they're going to move.
Yeah.
Right.
And
I think one of the components that I have been trained on, but the local community haven't been trained on as much, and including Chamber of Commerce's and or economic development groups, is that tourism is a huge factor in making people's decision to bring a corporation in as much as it is a family in. And without the component of what is there to see and do in not only Fairfield, but the region, so that if they do want to go out, what do they have around them? They
Right.
need to know what it will be like for them and their families and their employees to do when they're not at work. And that's another huge piece that's kind of left out of the component a little bit. I understand that, and I do try to give information out when I hear that an employer is thinking about the area. I'll just be brazen enough to say, you need to send them this visitor information, and I get looks. But the reality of it is part of, that's why the Department of Tourism is in with the Department of Economic Development in Iowa.
another key part of that, and it's happening in Fairfield with the strategic plan, is the Beautification Commission was formed, and it's looking at Fairfield from an outsider's viewpoint and how things look and the difference, and the architectural renewal group. And
I'm so excited for that.
oh, I
because
am too.
I feel that I had just said this actually a little earlier today, we have an embarrassment of cultural riches in this town. I mean, we have so much in terms of music and art and dance and all these wonderful things. And I'm ready for our physical town to begin to reflect the inner riches. Usually in a community, it's the other way around. They spend all their money gussying up their town square or whatever. But there's not a lot that is going on that people can do and engage. Not near as much as we have. And I just feel we've got that handled like you can't believe. I mean, it's just really something to do constantly all the time in Fairfield. And now it's time for our physical, square and everything to truly reflect that. I'm so excited for that.
And so
architecture, revitalization, all these things.
Right.
It's going to be wonderful as we move forward with that now.
And I think there was something in the paper, or I read somewhere just recently, and you're on the council, Connie, so can you give us an idea what we're in store for?
Well, last night we did have a presentation by Sarah Cochran and Jerry Long that came out of their committee that reviewed all of the projects that RDG had put forth to say, we think that you should do this in your town. And what they did was prioritize all their projects and try to get it within a budget of what they had been told, in the neighborhood of $700,000. Now, so they had about 6 or 7 phases in this plan. that, and the number one phase was to repaint what everyone has seems to name the brontosaurus streetlights. And
Those are the ones on the highway, right?
And around the square.
around the square,
Yes.
right around the immediate vicinity of downtown. Some of them go out a block.
Yeah.
And that was the first thing. It was interesting because many people had said, there's just so ugly, we need to get rid of them.
Mm-hmm.
And they were so surprised when RDG came back and said, no, they provide very good light.
Useful light.
And they're very functional and useful and, just spruce them up.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
To replace them would probably take all of the budget.
Yeah.
So that was a good sense from them. Again, outside eyes looking in, which is what that
And
took.
my understanding is part of this was actually a gift. Was there a portion of this funding that was a gift? I mean, and it wasn't a huge gift, but there was, someone left a donation memorial.
Oh, well, then that's news to me. I don't
Yeah,
remember that.
know
this
more
was
about-
a couple years ago
Okay.
that got it started.
Well, now that could be, and then part of, I know there was some money for the gazebo.
Mm-hmm.
Is that what we're talking about?
Okay, maybe that is.
I know there was some money a couple years ago that was left for the gazebo to keep it spruced up. And last year, the year before, we painted that and that kind of thing through Park and Rec. So there's that. There's these nodes that go more decorative kind of plantings, more pedestrian friendly between the parks and the outlying merchant area. More trees, some period lighting, some sidewalk coloring. So those are several of the things that are involved there that are related to that. Now, what will happen going forward then is that the Ways and Means Committee will, again, when we start budgeting at the beginning of the year, take a look at that and put it in the master plan, so to speak, and some of those things hopefully will start actually happening next year in 2006.
Very
Wow,
exciting.
it is.
And it's interesting, I'm sort of challenged as a council member to, this is a huge amount of money.
Yeah.
I mean, in my eyes,
Yeah.
when it has more than a couple zeros,
Yeah.
But, so it's a challenge from one standpoint to spend money on what we would consider beautification. From another standpoint, you talk to people who have been that have come from other communities that took that leap of faith to spend a significant amount of money for this beautification project and what a difference it made in their town.
Mm-hmm.
And that has happened in several places in Iowa already. And that's one thing that I hope over the next few months that I can maybe take a couple weekend trips and go to Shenandoah. That town was mentioned last night. I think Vinton is another one.
Mm-hmm.
Certainly we can look at Pella and know that they've done some downtown revitalization over the years. Ames was another place that was mentioned that had these similar nodes around different areas. So, and when people report back to you that, boy, our town was really suffering, and no, we saw the vision, we spent the money, now our storefronts are full.
Yeah.
It's hard to argue that point.
Mm-hmm.
It's an investment in the future. We were just at a luncheon with Anita Walker, who is the Director of Cultural Affairs, I think is what her title is. And she was saying that they had done this study. It wasn't just Iowa, it was a national corporation had done a study, and they'd asked all these people all over the country what was, I'm trying to remember the exact question.
What makes a place?
What makes a place appealing or special to you? And as a visitor, or I can't remember.
I want to live there.
Yeah, if you want to, what makes you want to live in a place? And the number one response that came from all corners of our entire country was that it be aesthetically pleasing and enriching. People want to feel, they take the appearance level as being a representative of what's underneath. And I'm very excited that we're going to be working on that in our town because, what's underneath has been rich for a long, 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 long time. And to get the money, I personally think it's money extremely well spent. It's an investment in our future. And very selfishly speaking, as a person who works with Art Walk, you know, in my mind, that's my home. And I want that to really be spiffy too. I think it's a great opportunity for us to.
And I think it's beginning to pay off already.
I
mean,
agree.
we've got the cultural district designation as of today,
Yeah.
officially.
Yep.
And this award,
There'll be
it's
tax
beginning
credits
to
with
pay
that,
off.
with the cultural district
Right.
application. So if you have a building owner on the square who's thinking he wants to do some, you know, refurbishment of his building, particularly if it's one of the historical ones, there will be tax credits available to do that. That's amazing. It's wonderful. It's a really great thing, the cultural district.
And, you know, the cultural district is a little bit vague to some people. We're
Finding out.
hearing little bits and pieces about it, but you will be hearing more about it, about what that really means over the next few months. You know, again, that's been happening under the surface, percolating along with some of these other things. It's a reality now, and as more things, more education goes out there about, you know, we'll probably do some workshops about the tax credits and start talking about some of the long-term planning and what that means for the city. And again, I guess I'd like to stress that, you know, Lucy's doing so much marketing, and, you know, we got this project going, we got the cultural district. We have several things. We need bodies.
Yeah, we could
We
use
need
volunteers.
bodies, more volunteers. If you want to be involved, all you have to do is call one of us.
Yeah.
Yes.
Get involved. I mean, because all of these are interrelated and interconnected, and we're all trying to market efficiently, with Lucy given the lead. But then underneath all that marketing is all these little projects and networking going on between the organizations, and, you know, whether it's the Art Association and the Art Walk and FACT, or theater groups and the dance groups, and so there's all this other networking and organizing going on, as well as just plain marketing.
Oh, yes. That's why we would like to tie in team tourism to every single organization working towards that same goal that crosses over. It's crossing over into all of our areas. And at least that allows us once a month to come together and say, this is what I'm doing. We have literally, everyone has time. This is what's going on. This is what I need. Someone else might need volunteers for the next. And we've come up with some solutions to some of those problems or challenges that we have doing our own thing. But we're not doing our own thing. We really are working together. And so I'd like to throw that out there, that anybody from all these organizations want to give somebody the role of going to team tourism and keeping us all connected. Because that's really, I mean, instead of going and going and going and going and going and spreading ourselves thin, at least we know we can come together, and there's going to be a lot of meat at one meeting, and then we send out minutes. So everybody gets it. And can
And
put
your
everybody on the
office
list.
is in the chamber?
Yes,
office?
it is. It's in the Chamber's office, and it's we do move our team tourism around because of the growth. Some months it's bigger than others, and but always they can call the Chamber and find out where it is, and go on our mailing list, our email list.
And Lucy, I see in your lap there the Eastern Iowa Tourism Guide there. Is there
Yes.
anything that we need to tell people about that?
Well, actually, yes. Fairfield, Iowa is actually a designated community in Eastern Iowa tourism region. The state is divided into 4 districts. No, wait, 3. I'm sorry, 3. Central Iowa, which we land right on the cusp. I don't know if this has a no, this is Eastern. Anyway, the state is laid out, and it's basically lined up like that. And this is Western Iowa, Central Iowa, and Eastern. Well, where Fairfield is we're right near the cusp line of Central and Eastern. We are designated Eastern, but we are also right, the consumer or customer has no idea when they cross over from Central Iowa into Eastern Iowa. So we belong to both regions. This happens to be Eastern Iowa. But Eastern Iowa we belong to, and we went out on a very big marketing campaign and education campaign this year to let the community know that they are in Eastern Iowa, and to be on the Fairfield page or to be on the radar of tourism, please join this association. We don't benefit a penny by it. the CVB for recommending this, but what it does for the community is put us on the radar. And we have never been out there, so we needed to do
any merchant, any
Anybody.
organization,
Restaurant, organization,
can be in this book.
Art Walk's a member. There's several restaurants are members.
Civic Center's a member.
Civic Center.
City's a member. Many restaurants, a couple hotels joined this year. So now when the visitor comes in and they actually open the book and they're in a visitor center picking this up, they can open the book up and they go, wow, Fairfield, look at all of this
Pages.
support information along with look at all the festivals. It's an avenue that our visitors do pick up because those state tourism directors at the different kiosks around the state, they're experts. And when they ask them where they're going or if they're close to coming in, they will recommend Fairfield and look what they have to offer. And by the way, I would like to show, this is the 2005 advertisement, and it happens to be Susan's beautiful artwork that we picked, and we will be drawing a winner from this contest on December 15th, and they win an overnight stay with their family and meal by submitting this year. So this was our very first year. We got it in, and we got it in Central Iowa and Eastern Iowa. And our very new ad will be coming out January 1st for 2006. Will be in the Iowa Travel Guide as well as Eastern Iowa and Central Iowa. So we work very closely with the region. We network continuously with our state people. They're very aware of Fairfield, and this is just an exciting time. It really is.
I have to give a plug for belonging to the Eastern Iowa Tourism. If someone picks this up, they're already halfway to where you are anyways, because these are people who are looking for a place to go visit. I can't think of a better use of my personal marketing dollars for Art Walk than to be in this, because anyone looking at this, they're already halfway there. They're out their door and on their way to somewhere, and if you're in here, then they get the idea to come and visit you. So I really like the idea of people joining this. It's also really nice to see a huge representation from Fairfield in the book because it really creates a sense of excitement for people that they go, oh, now I've got it. Yeah, I need to go check it out. There's a lot of interesting
An
things.
example is this Friday, a group of friends and I are going to go once in a while, at least 2-3 times a year. We try and pick a place out and go and spend the day and shop and antique and eat. And once in a while we might stay all night, but that's a perfect
we have so
example
many
of
people.
what.
The Art Walk draws in people like that. I can't believe it. I mean, every Art Walk I'm running into people who are coming down from Des Moines or from a larger city, and people are they're interested in exploring. There's so many people interested in exploring, and we want to give them a reason to be here. I mean, we have the reason. We want to let them know about the reasons to be here. And come and just hang out and shop. And we had 2 guests at the last Art Walk from Des Moines, and they stayed at the Landmark Inn there on the square, and they went to Art Walk, and they went to Farmers Market, and they hiked the trails, and I mean, there's all kinds of stories like that. People
And just the other day, I popped downtown to do some errand, and I was watching this group of people going, well, what store is this? Oh, that's a drugstore. Well, let's go on in and check it out. And I'm thinking, it's working. It's working.
It's so exciting. It's so exciting. We had a couple turn up again. This was like in August or something, and I noticed, they looked like they hadn't recognized them. One of the advantages of a small town, you can spot people coming in from outside. I went over and introduced myself and chatted with them. They drove every year from Omaha to Indianapolis to pick up their son from college, and they don't like I-80, so they went 34, and they drove through here last year. It happened to be on an Art Walk night. It's usually on. Actually, it had been in September on the Labor Day weekend, and they went, wow, what's going on? They saw the square lit up and people milling around and lights and all this. They got so excited that they planned to spend an overnight here this year, and that is what they did. They drove in on Friday morning. They just started real early and came in like late morning. They stayed all Friday. They went to Art Walk. They stayed overnight. They actually stayed Saturday night too. They went hiking on the trail, our beautiful trail system. They got a whole bunch, went to a different restaurant every meal, and there was a concert that night on Saturday night too, so they ate out and then went to one of our, I don't think it was live on the square, but it might have been, I can't remember, and then left on Monday morning to go get their son. I mean,
it's
There's more and more stories like this. I have to start compiling them somewhere because it's just
Yes,
it's very
yes.
inspiring, and they loved it, and they're going to do it every year. That was the thing. We're coming back every year. This is a great way to break the trip up into 2 days.
Now, people, the only way they can pick these up is either on the internet, and that's with all regions, Travel Iowa, Eastern and Central, and Western, but we're not there, so we only go the two. And then the Iowa Travel Guide. The only way they can get them is by requesting them and or picking them up at one of these visitor centers. So that's it, the only way. We keep a couple in our office for walk-ins, but we do not send out this. We send out our information along with the art walk and whatever else that people give us. So I wanted to make that clear. So this is the visitor. They're literally a visitor and they're planning their trip somewhere, and we want them to plan it through and stay in Fairfield. So that's what's really cool. It's targeted.
I think we need to turn our focus to this award again.
Oh, it's
Can
so
you tell us-
exciting.
You need to show it to
Yeah,
Can
I
you
will.
give
I'll
us
hold it up.
a little history of the art walk and then
The history of the Art Walk, that's a good... Art Walk's going into its 4th year. It was started by Stacy Herlin. I think the university had done a little one-time event called Fun Fest, and it was a sort of seed form of Art Walk. It was a lot of different activities going on one weekend, and they promoted it and what have you. I think it might, but I'm not sure, been a part of their visitors weekend program, but I'm not entirely clear. But Stacy, in her wisdom, saw the potential, knowing how deep and wide our arts community goes. And when we say arts, it's not just visual arts. It's dance, it's music, it's everything that you can. It's food, it's everything
Theater.
you think of. Theater, absolutely.
Cooking,
Theater,
film.
cooking, absolutely everything. She thought, this would be a great concept. Now, she didn't invent the concept of art walk per se, because art walks happen all over the country. But she thought this would work well with Fairfield. And so she just basically networked around to a number of the different art galleries that exist in Fairfield and said, explain the advantages of staying open one night a month and just having people come in to look around and telling the restaurants about it too, because they could have specials that night to draw people in and what have you. And it just kind of, I don't want to give the impression it didn't take a lot of work, because it did from her side and her volunteers, but it does, Art Walk has a life of its own. It has just grown over the last 3 years, and we've gotten more and more and more people coming in for it. And I'm happy to say more and more our own local citizens trying it out too, because I know that when some people hear Art Walk, they go, I'm so not interested in art, what would be the reason for me to go? But all it takes is coming onto the square that evening, and that
Seeing all your
it's a big party.
friends.
It's a party once a month in Fairfield. So this just has developed over the months. It got to the point where it was such a huge job that it transcended Stacy, and Mayor Malloy appointed a board of directors to handle it. It needed to be more than just one person because it was becoming big. Art Walk definitely has a life of its own. Stacy and I laugh. We say we could probably all stop doing everything, and it would still carry on for another maybe 3 or 4 months before anyone noticed, and then still keep going on because everyone's enjoying themselves so much, these days that, I think we're sort of along for the ride in some respects. But it's a nonprofit. Art Walk is a nonprofit educational event, and we have a board of directors that runs it. Our mission statement is to make it accessible and fun for everybody in the community. We want to have something for everyone is basically what we aim for. So we, in the summer months particularly, we have a fabulous children's program. It's not huge, but the kids love it. We have a giant canvas to paint on, and chalk and bubbles, and we'll sometimes have often face painters and magicians and things over there. We do music. We had music in the gazebo almost every month this summer, and which was great for people who like that. And then the galleries are open. Our dear, sweet, wonderful galleries and art venues who open their doors every month, and they usually have snacks out and things for people. And I wish that their art sales, we had reflected that the success of Art Walk. It hasn't yet. We're moving in that direction as we bring in people from outside, who are interested in buying art. But we just always at Art Walk, on the Art Walk board, are so grateful to our galleries and art venues because they are really the backbone of Art Walk. But anyways, we applied for We became a member of the Eastern Iowa Tourism Association, and every year they give out several awards. And so we thought, well, let's throw our hat in the ring. We filled out a nomination form for ourselves and what have you. And much to our surprise, on some level, because we know we're pretty good, we received this award. Lucy was at the tourism convention where they announced the winners, and there we were. We were the tourism event of the year. And they base theirs a lot on the economic impact that an event will have in an area. And so we're very proud that Art Walk is a player in the economic vitality of Fairfield. We're very proud of that, and we work, that is part of the mission statement to keep that going too. We work very closely with Fairfield Merchants Association and the Chamber. We come up with different ideas and themes every month. We have so many ideas. We need people.
We need your help.
We need volunteers. We're actually, and I keep saying this, I just keep putting it out there. In particular, right now we're looking for a children's activity director. We really feel our children's program can really blossom. And I just think there's nothing more joyful to me than seeing children involved in making art. It's just, there's like magic happening. And you see a child engaged that way. And so we're looking for someone who might find it fun to do as a volunteer, to just sort of take what little programs we have and run with it, develop it. I can tell you there's a million ideas that, from people in the community. We just need someone who's interested in, and I always say, so as no one's intimidated, don't feel like you have to do everything in the universe, because whatever you do is much more than what's happening without you. So whatever hand you can give is, as a volunteer, it's a wonderful way to contribute back to your town and people around you. So we're very, very proud to have this, and we accept it on behalf of the entire community, because it really does, the expression, it takes a village. It takes a village to run an art walk. It truly does. And Lucy's done such a great job of marketing us so that we're getting all these people coming in. And we're excited that the award actually gives us more clout. Yeah, our brochure will have a sticker on it claiming that we are the 2005 winner. And
we'll put one too.
And that gives people a little bit of a heads up.
And we'll be doing a show coming up here about the December Art Walk and the special project.
I'm sorry.
I'm stuck to the chair over there.
I couldn't move my arm.
But the special art walk that's coming up in December, and the gingerbread. We'll be doing that here pretty soon.
Yeah.
But
We're excited
This has been so much fun coming here today. I mean, just talking about it, it's just been a great year. It's been a great year.
I felt selfish all year because we've just been having all this fun, the people that are working on this. We just giggle and laugh and, go and do our little... work a lot, yeah. But I'm excited to share it, with the FPAC audience, because there's so much room for more people to come.
Yes.
So if there's anyone out there that's
call
interested,
the chamber and they'll take your name, and I'll probably get first dibs at from Art Walk, but absolutely, please feel free. There's room for everybody. I'm very proud of the cross section of the community that's involved in both team tourism and First Friday's Art Walk. It's a wonderful cross section of the entire community. I feel it's a great way for all of us to move forward together into our just more economic vitality, more fulfillment.
And more succinctly.
Yeah.
Because there's so many wonderful organizations, and if we don't know what's going on, if I don't know, I'm marketing this community, so I need to know everything that's going on.
So is there a master calendar?
Yes,
I know some communities put together a certain kind of calendar, and that's been needed by our community.
Well, I would like to say something about that too. Yes, we are trying, and have since the day I came aboard, to put together a master calendar. We get some events from some people, and only some events that are right as they're happening, which is too late for us to know. Mm-hmm. My lead time on most publications is 18 months. So 18 months in advance of the next year is when I need it to really market the community very well in all of the events. The minute we really need to have everyone educated, because the minute they plan it and say, okay, we're going to do this in 2007, they need to pick the dates. And then that's all I need, and I can run with that information and much better coverage and marketing on those events than I do when now they have the really pretty brochure or they have a nice flyer made. It's too late. It's too late to market the event to outsiders. So I need events called into the chamber. Sally puts them on a master calendar, and we have the ability to put them out 5, 10, 15 years. I mean, seriously, we're trying to get together. In fact, it's a good segue into this. This is our very first calendar of events. If you're not in there, we didn't get the information. So this happened to be from the mid of the year to the end of the year. We had to go with it. I mean, we had to have something out there. We were marketing. We were putting our brochures out. We are currently trying to get together at the first quarter of the year, and it is like pulling teeth. And that is just to get this printed. Now, we will get that out through the kiosks as well, but it's already missed printing time for our big state
So that
guides and
one's
everything
quarterly.
else. Yes, and people, in fact, today had someone come up to me and say, I just opened AAA, and we're not in there for the rest of the year in the first quarter of next year. It didn't have one thing of Fairfield. It had Pella, and it had this, and it had that. It's like, okay, Lucy, did you not do your job? Well, I said, I know that. They needed that information a year ago.
Yeah, before you started.
Before I even started. And the fact of the matter is, we were already over the date. October 1st was the last date for this next year. So we're already missing.
So hopefully we'll get better.
The training,
Just plan ahead.
the training
Yeah,
is
have it.
plan ahead. If you stick with team tourism and come in and everybody's there listening to the same thing, it will get better. It takes about 2 to 3 years to get a very good calendar of events from a community, and that's all about education.
Right.
So get your calendar of events stuff to us at the chamber.
So I think we have opened a very important door today with our community, sharing all the information about your position as CVB and the Art Walk, tourism event of the year.
Yeah.
We're so excited. We're so pleased.
Yes. And Connie, we're back on track for opening Fairfield Doors.
And we're doing another show next week, actually.
Yes, we are. I'll have to put that on my calendar. So thank you very much for
Thank you
joining
so
us
much.
today.
Thank
and-
you.
Thank you.
And congratulations. It's a great honor.
Oh,
Thank
And we're
you.
Fairfield's very proud of both of you and all the people that have been working with you to
Thank you.
create this
Thank the
great award.
volunteers. Yes, thank you.
Thank you to literally everyone. I could just, see people in my mind that have no idea that they're part of this, but every merchant, every volunteer, just everybody that says hello to our guests that come in that night and make it special. The ones that are actually coming to First Friday's Art Walk
Yes.
played a part in that. It was a 3-pronged award. It was about attendance, so that the attendance had to be up. It was about marketing. The marketing, one thing we didn't mention here is that Art Walk did win a scholarship,
grant from
a
the
grant
CVB
from
to
the
do
CVB this summer to do a big radio campaign, but that was also with the merchants. So it's really just everybody working together. And what was the third thing? It was,
Content? The event itself?
I guess.
I would think.
I think there's.
Yes.
I can't remember what the 3 prongs were, but
The cross section of the community.
oh yes,
Which we're so
and community involvement.
community involvement.
Because so that it's not just one person's event. It took everybody. That's what it was.
Yeah.
Yep.
So thank you, Fairfield, and congratulations.
Thank you.